As usual, one of the most denied facts in gaming is that handheld gaming consoles are dead. The writing has been on the wall for quite some time, and just the other day, technology news site Ars Technica released an article not only saying that Nintendo had lowered sales predictions of their 3DS handheld gaming system, but the article even described 3DS sales as cratering, showing a graph comparing sales of the Game Boy Advance and DS with that of the 3DS. Now, one thing with Nintendo has been clear. Their handheld sales have kept them afloat and made money, especially during the GameCube and N64 eras when Nintendo's home console sales were heavily down from their peak in the Nintendo Entertainment System era and when third parties were jumping like crazy from their home consoles. However, the Wii U is tanking, and now the only product Nintendo has to fall back on is the Nintendo 3DS. The only issue is the 3DS hasn't been so great. From new revisions of the system that support exclusive games that never arrived, to game droughts and localizations being a complete disaster, to the system having a terrible operating system that gets slower and slower each update. Sure, it has a few good games, but just like any other system with only a few good games, you have to ponder, is it really worth it just to buy a system for these few games? And to make matters worse for Nintendo, the casual audience that helped sell the DS in large numbers back in the late 2000s has moved on to smartphones. Kids have as well, and you're more likely to see little kids in public with a cell phone or tablet instead of a 3DS. In fact, when I went to New York City a few years ago, which is one of the biggest cities in the world, the only time I saw 3DS owners was when I was taking a tour of the USS Intrepid, and these kids had their 3DSs out that they were using as cameras because they didn't have cell phones. And of course, let's not forget the whole pricing issue. While cell phone games are usually either free with ads, free to play, or as Nintendo calls it, free to start, or under $5, 3DS games are usually $40. To make matters worse, Nintendo has a bad habit of never dropping prices of games, unlike Sony or Microsoft. Quite a few of their games still cost $40 new and slightly under that used, while you can pick up early Xbox One and PS4 titles cheaply already. Quite a few of their better games also never remain in print for very long, while games such as Halo 3 or Call of Duty 4 on the Xbox 360 can still be picked up new today. Yet, while these games are still available digitally on the Nintendo eShop, Nintendo has the most restrictive DRM of any gaming company today. Speaking of digital games, Nintendo has not released any Super Nintendo or Game Boy Advance games on the 3DS, all while happily releasing them on their home console, the Wii U. So while Nintendo remains in a bubble like Kodak, Polaroid, SGI, and other now irrelevant companies did, the fact of the matter is that handhelds are dead. But let's be honest, one of the reasons for this is the fact that handhelds never adapted to the current year. After all, as John Oliver or Justin Trudeau would say, it's 2016. The market has moved on, and instead of targeting handhelds towards the people buying games on consoles, both companies, and especially Nintendo, have dropped the ball. Casual gamers have just left Nintendo handhelds in droves, and instead of playing games like Mario that still cost $40, they play games such as Candy Crush or Angry Birds that are either free with ads, free with microtransactions, or that are only under $5 in the App Store or Google Play. But I think the game that best illustrates the pricing problem on the 3DS is one of the games I just mentioned, Angry Birds. When that game first came out on the 3DS, it was around $30, while the same thing on the phone was either free or under $3 for all the games. And I think that says a lot about the 3DS and prices of games on it. They are so much more than they are on mobile. Now, don't get me wrong, Nintendo's brands still have some value. I mean, Nintendo is currently milking Pokemon until it's dry because it's one of those huge brands among kids. They literally announced a new Pokemon game with no other details besides the title, platform, a release window, and yet people still are getting excited for it. There is also somewhat still a market for gaming consoles that feature traditional controls and have games that you'd find on a console. But the problem is both the 3DS and the Vita don't have very many big games, and especially not coming out right now. And even though Nintendo has quite a few people running out and buying systems for the sole purpose of playing Nintendo games, even those people won't keep Nintendo alive. Just look at why Nintendo is in third place in console sales right now. That's all that needs to be said. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more, and please don't waste your money on a 3DS or Vita because right now they are crappy systems and they're likely to die soon anyway.